We're on.
And good evening, everybody.
I'm
We have
David.
names.
I'm David. I got a name. I'm David. I'm David.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our first Under the Radar podcast of the season. I'm your host, Chad Sherwood, joined by just David Grace tonight. Kind of an old school Under the Radar here. It's been a while since it's just been the two of us, I think.
Yeah, I mean, again, no one seems to. Everybody else is just hanging out on the radar. And to be fair, there's been a lot that's happened on the radar that's pretty exciting, but a lot of good under the radar stuff too. And this being our first broadcast, Chad, like one of the things that we've noticed in doing this over the years is that, there's going to be a smattering of teams that are in the, within range of the bubble, either land on it or inside it, whether if they happen to slip up in their conference tournaments. And a lot of those cases are made right now. So even though it is early, these are some of the more important games that a lot of these teams are going to be playing.
Exactly. When you've got teams like Chattanooga, for example, they're going to have limited chances against top competition. And those chances come in November and December.
Right.
Once we hit January, they're going to be playing Western Carolina and UNC Greensboro every game. And that's not going to earn them any points with the selection committee. Losing those games will hurt, but winning those games is not going to give you any positive points.
Right. So they really do kind of need to make their case now.
And that is why especially for these under the radar, it may be more important because when you're in the ACC, even if you play a cupcake schedule, you lose a few games, you're a Michigan State who start out 0-2.
Yeah,
you're going to get Indiana and you're going to get Purdue and you're going to get Michigan and you're going to get all those games in January and February that none of these guys are going to get.
Right.
But David, actually, we always like to start by defining under the radar. And since this is the first under the radar of the season, why don't you tell everybody what it really means to be under the radar?
Okay. First, on the radar, we have defined as the 10 regular multi-bid conferences. Those are the Power Five, which is the ACC, SEC, Big Ten, Big 12 and Pac-12, and 5 additional regular multi-bid leagues. I realized that last year the Mountain West did not get a team inside the bubble, but 19 times out of 20, these conferences, their first place team in the field without the automatic bid. That's the Big East, the Atlantic 10, the Mountain West. The West Coast now has been moved up, and the American Athletic Association. 2 of these are kind of not off to great starts, but we will still talk about them on the HoopsHD report. Tonight, it's the other 22 conferences, and so that's number one. Number two, if you are ranked in the top 25, no matter what league you're in, you are on the radar. So we won't be talking about you on this show. We'll be talking about you during the HoopsHD report when we're reflecting, all the bubble team or everybody that's on or in the bubble like we always do.
Right. At the moment, all of the teams in these 22 conferences, there are no top 25 teams. Based on what we've seen this week, that may change as early as next week. But for now, everybody is in these 22 conferences is fair game for this podcast. So we will be discussing them all.
Right. And we love this. These are our leagues. Like, we don't do this. It's not like a relegation, so to speak. We do this because we love these leagues. We really do.
And David, we like to go through these leagues in alphabetical order. And last year, our team of the people was the Grand Canyon Antelopes, played in the WAC, and they were the last conference we got to at the end of every one of these podcasts, kind of saving the best for last there.
Right.
This year, our team of the people happens to be in the first conference alphabetically that we're going to be getting to every week.
Right. And I hate to start off on such a negative note, but, I mean, this is outrageous. I'm angry about it. I know you're angry about it. New Hampshire is 2-0, and you look at the top 25, and they're not in the top 25. Why aren't the team of the people in the top 25? And I may have the answer here if I can do this right. Let me see. Are we seeing? Are we seeing on the list the AP voters, Chad?
Yes. We have here up here on the screen here the list of all the AP voters right here on the screen.
Right, and they're sorted by state. So we have the 2 from Alabama, the person from Arkansas. We've got several from California, someone from D.C. D.C. not even a state, yet they have someone on the Associated Press. What Well, why would the press care about DC anyway? A couple from Florida, Illinois, New Hampshire, Kentucky, Maryland, and now we get down to the ends. And who's missing? Who is missing, Chad?
There is nobody
There
on
is
the
no
committee.
one from New Hampshire voting in this poll. And then when we look at the poll, not only is New Hampshire not ranked, they're not even receiving any votes. This is outrageous.
It is, and David, we are therefore going to be starting a new Twitter campaign. Among the other Twitter campaigns we're starting, but we are going to be doing a hashtag RankUNH.
Hashtag RankUNH. Yes. Let's see if we can get that. Okay.
We're going to get that up on the screen here, but
this is our top-notch. There it is. Hashtag RankUNH. Our graphics department whipped this up.
This cost us $50,000.
It cost us $50,000 to put this together. RankUNH, and like there's a list of voters. We have to take this to Twitter. That's how all problems get solved. That's how all movements get going. Hashtag RankUNH, and you need to start tweeting at these voters.
Yes, we need to get them ranked there. We need to. I know it will take them off of the Under the Radar podcast, but we'll be happy to discuss them. During the
because they're the team of the people. We can talk about them whenever they want. They get our zealous, unconditional support all year long.
And David, I'm actually want to while we are discussing New Hampshire here, also pull something up on my screen if we can get it here. Let's see. Okay. And let's start right here. Actually, let's start right here. This is the New Hampshire State Quarter.
Yes.
And as you can see, it's got the state motto there, live free or die.
Yes.
I'm also going to show you the New Hampshire license plate. We saw that for a second there. Once again, live free or die.
Yes.
Now, I've got a little bit of an issue with this, though, because, I think, as we discussed, we're actually starting a new phrase here for the state.
Yes.
That way. And what that new phrase is no longer live free or die, but we're going to get rid of live free. Here we go.
We don't want you to live free.
Disappeared right there. Live free or die.
We still want you to live free, but we're already living free. We've been living free for hundreds of years now. There's something we're not doing in the state of New Hampshire. What is that?
We are not going dancing yet, but right there, we see it now. Hashtag go dancing or die.
Hashtag go dancing or die.
And that is what your New Hampshire license plate should read.
Yes.
And in fact, David, here's a little bit of research for you. Actually, United States Supreme Court back in 1977, the case of Woolley versus Maynard, there were individuals in the state of New Hampshire who wanted to change their license plate, wanted to cover up the or die section just to live free. It was a violation in the state of New Hampshire to do that. The United States Supreme Court said, you can do it. You can make a change to that slogan on your license plate. So everybody that lives in the state of New Hampshire, according to the United States Supreme Court, you can do exactly what you see in the screen there to your license plate.
Right. And I mean, and if the Supreme Court says you can do it, you can do it.
You can absolutely do it. Yeah. Hashtag go dancing or die.
Or die.
And we are actually going to try to actually find out if we can actually get that officially changed, David.
Right. Yeah, we will be working on that. We're going to be ordering a New Hampshire license plate. I don't have a car. I lost my license because of too many DUIs and what. Okay. All right.
But let's get into the actual teams now, and I'm going to go ahead and pull up on the screen here now. We should be seeing, if I did it right, the standings here.
Yeah, and again, New Hampshire, the team of the people. Good start here for a couple of UMBC winning 2 games when they typically only win 3 or 4 all year long, getting off to a nice 2-0 start there. But New Hampshire, 2-0 overall, 1-0 against Div 1 competition. By the way, this is WarrenNolan.com, our good friend and colleague Warren Nolan. Great website. I think it's the best as far as the statistical analysis and the way it's laid out. That's why we use it. It's one of the best ones. Check it out, WarrenNolan.com. But New Hampshire 1-0, and how about the win that they got, Chad?
Yeah, and in all seriousness now, they went to Temple, picked up one of the biggest road wins in program history, quite honestly. This New Hampshire team has not been good for many, many years, is a very good team this year. They're going to have a tough battle here. Albany picked up a win at Penn State already. Vermont is also going to be a good team this year. Not so certain about anybody else in the conference, though.
Yeah, UMass Lowell giving getting the home win against Wagner and actually kind of hanging in for a little bit tonight, although not very long. Stony Brook kind of in rebuilding mode, but they'll certainly be back. But I mean, we picked them for a reason. They don't have much of a history, but in the last 2 or 3 years, this program has made huge strides. And this year, I think they're probably one of the best program teams in the conference. And so far, they have the most impressive win out of anyone in this conference. Temple isn't as good as they normally are, or they likely won't be, but that's still a very, very good road win.
And
Temple,
David,
yeah.
David, RPI is not very important early in the season, but look at this right here. I'm going to circle it.
Yes,
Number 3 in the
third
nation.
in the RPI. Look at that. This is yeah. I mean, the RPI has them third. The voters that are none of which are from New Hampshire, aren't voting for them at all.
Let's move on, and we do want to take a look at a couple of other conferences, actually the rest of the conferences, and beyond the America East, the next one up would be the Atlantic Sun. We should be seeing it on the screen right now. And Florida Gulf Coast, actually, is a team I want to mention. This was the under-the-radar game of the day today against Texas Arlington. Fell down big early.
Yeah.
And a very impressive second half. And they're still playing without their best player, who's been out with a broken foot for about a month now.
Yeah, real good game. We're going to get to Texas Arlington later, but Arlington, our favorite to win the Sun Belt. You might recall they got off to a tremendous start last year, kind of faded down the stretch, but have a lot back. Jumped out all over Gulf Coast, like you said, but came thundering back. Didn't get the win, but still a good.
Gulf Coast won the game. Yes.
Oh, they did. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Gulf Coast.
We're talking about the Ace. Chad.
Yeah, we're talking about the Ace Sun. Gulf Coast did get the win here, David.
We have to start over now. I thought we were talking. I can't. But yeah, real nice win for Gulf Coast, at least in exciting fashion. So North Florida got trounced tonight against Miami, by the way.
Yeah, they weren't even in that game. That was an interesting home game for North Florida, actually, against Miami. Very rare to get that. And
right. And North Florida is another team we like in this league, but they haven't looked it so far.
The Big Sky Conference has been almost not worthy of much discussion at all yet so far. Weber State did have a game that they lost, but
yes, Montana State has a win.
Yeah, Montana State has a win. Weber is still my pick here, but nothing big out of this conference as of yet.
Yeah.
The Big South Conference, as we move right on.
That is top-notch.
There are 2 D1 wins here as well from Winthrop and Presby, David.
Yeah, Presby has a win, and I think we might see Presby double or possibly even triple or quadruple that win total by the end of the year, Chad.
Well, Presby, for now, you can say that at least you're in second place in terms of overall record.
Yeah. I do like this Winthrop team. I mean, I know I've been saying it, but they finally fixed their conference tournament. Hopefully Winthrop, after having been one of the best teams, if not the best the last several years, is rewarded with home court advantage.
David, let's move on to the Big West here. And whenever we talk Big West, especially at this point in the season, one of the teams that we always have to discuss is Long Beach. And I'm going to actually pull up Long Beach's schedule here entirely on the screen. It should be coming up. And what a lightweight schedule this is.
Yes. Wichita pounded them. First of all, okay. They opened against Cal State Los Angeles, and it's like, come on, can't you get a better team on the schedule than that?
Yeah, they got pounded by Wichita, pounded by North Carolina. They're going to follow that with at Louisville, at UCLA, at Washington. Even at Gulf Coast is not an easy game. At New Mexico State is not going to be an easy game.
Yeah, Kansas. Then they go to Texas. Oregon State coming to Long Beach. Or no, where is that game?
That's a neutral site game. Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, Dan Monson has been doing this the entire time he's been there. It is an interesting strategy. One of the things it does is that it gets them paid for on the receiving end of bye games, as a lot of under-the-radar teams like to do. But if you're playing a numbers game, let's just say, for instance, they lose all but 2 or 3 of those, and then they get in the conference and they run through the Big West. That RPI is going to be in the 40s, 30s range, even if they enter conference play with just 3 or 4 Div 1 wins. And we've seen this happen before. Like because a team that enters conference play, not to turn this in the math class, but say a team comes in the conference play 10-2, you really can't raise your winning percentage all that much from that point. Even if you win out, it'll go up some, but not enough to really, really jack up your RPI by improving your winning percentage. If you come in having just won 30% of your games and you double that, like by the end of the year you've won 65, 70, you've really raised it, and you have that strength of schedule. So this is sort of a backdoor way of doing it. There's all kinds of ways, but Dan Monson loves the tough schedule.
Yeah, and we'll see. We'll see. I mean, this is a year that we do like this team heading into the season. I don't expect to have a very impressive overall record heading into conference play, but we'll see if he can turn that experience into wins when we get to January and February.
Yeah.
The Colonial Athletic Association, this is a conference you and I are both very high on this UNC Wilmington team this year.
Yeah, like them a lot. Off to a good start so far, with their one Div 1 win. But I like them, and I like them to the point, and I realize that I'm going to say this about 7 or 8 teams, and not all of them will be there. I think this team is inside the bubble or good enough to be, and they're in regardless of what happens in their conference tournament. But to do that, they pretty much need to finish in first place in this league and pick up some big wins on a conference. Their schedule, if you can pull it up real quick, Chad.
Okay, Wilmington.
Yeah, Wilmington. There isn't a whole lot of meat on there, but I think there is enough just with some of their road games.
They're not the big name schools, but there are some solid schools like Middle Tennessee, Toledo, East Carolina. At Clemson is a huge one for them.
That is, and I think
this East Tennessee State team that they're going to play coming up this weekend is another big one.
Yeah. East Tennessee State out of the SoCon that we'll get to in a little bit.
And winning at Eastern Kentucky, which they've already done, is not an easy place to win.
Right. They needed overtime to win that one. If you watch that, like they got ahead. Eastern Kentucky made a run at them, had all the momentum, but they held on the win in overtime. And that's not an easy game to win. It's never easy to go on the road and win.
Well, let's move on beyond the Colonial to Conference USA. And this is a pretty interesting conference, in my opinion, at least, because I do think there's a handful of quality teams here that could I'm not going to say there's an at-large bid here, but I wouldn't be shocked if somebody ends up at least sniffing around one, just because you've got a team like an Old Dominion who's out to a good start, Middle Tennessee, who we're both very high on, Western Kentucky, who's got a solid team, Rice, who I like. I know you're not as high on them as I am.
Not yet, but yeah, like you said, the top of this league is definitely NIT caliber range, maybe even fringe bubble if everything falls right. And the bottom of this league is bad Southland team range. The range of this conference is huge.
Yeah, when you get down to the Southern Misses, Florida Internationals, Texas San Antonios, you can just hold your nose there, and that's one of the problems. Right. One of the problems because those other teams do drag you down, and why I think that this 14-team CUSA is just too darn big.
Yeah, it is, and you do have some talent. Middle Tennessee, I really like them this year. You may recall they advanced to the round of 32 as a 15 seed. A lot of players back, and this is under the radar, but it is a quality win of note. The big win against Murray State,
very nice game
earlier in the week. So you like them. A team that you and I both liked, I think, more than anyone coming into the season was this UAB team. And they've had a major, major setback. Unfortunately, Nick Norton, probably the team's best player, out for the year. And you just kind of hate that. This UAB team ran the table in conference last year, you might remember, lost in the quarterfinals of the conference tournament, and despite having won out, had not done enough to earn an at-large bid. And we kind of expected them to be as good or better this year, but that kind of stings. Not so much.
And they've already lost at home to Furman. So that is I don't want to completely write a team off less than a week into the season, but it's pretty darn close to doing it already with this UAB team.
Right.
A week ago, I picked to win the conference. Yeah.
But
beyond Conference USA, the Horizon League, another conference of the team that we both liked a lot heading into the season. And even though Valpo was off to this 2-0 start, they've not looked overly impressive getting there.
No, and again, they've won both their games, but they've struggled against teams that they should have absolutely blown the doors off of. Haven't looked impressive at all, really. And Wright State, I thought, nice road win at Southern Illinois, off to a 2-0 start. Uh, First-year coach Scott Nagy, who you might remember did so well at South Dakota State. I still think Wright State's a year away, but they've had a good first week.
Yeah. Actually, this Valpo team is 3-0. They did beat a non-D1 team, Trinity Christian. Even that game, I believe it was tied at halftime. They ended up winning
Yeah.
by 14, but you can play a non-D1 team. You're supposed to win by 30. It's the second half is
Yeah.
supposed to be basically an exhibition, and you're letting the walk-ons play, and it didn't happen.
Right, and this is a Valpo team, just to preface it, that you and I both think is NCAA tournament caliber, not just automatic bid caliber, but 12, 11 seed range.
Yeah,
And
I've seen some preseason brackets that had them as high as a 10 seed, and not my own
yeah,
bracket even.
and it's, again, they've gotten the wins, but it's kind of alarming that they've struggled the way that they have.
The Ivy League, another conference where we very high on this Princeton team, and they really didn't show up in that game at BYU during the marathon.
They did not. Now, to be fair to BYU, I thought BYU played better than I expected, but Princeton did not play as well at the same time. And again, it is important. These games have new importance for the Ivy League. There's a tournament this year. So last year when you watch a game like that, you just kind of shrug, oh, ho, hum. It only matters whether or not they finish first. They don't even need to be inside the bubble. Well, now they do because there's a tournament now. So they need to – those November, December games have a big added importance. That was one that Princeton kind of needed.
Yeah, and a couple other teams here of note. Harvard did lose the game to Stanford. That was in China. That would have been a big win for them as well. And Yale coming up with a huge win going cross-country to Washington, the third of the teams to have a huge road trip from this conference to start the season.
Yeah,
and without McKay Mason, their best player in the game,
right,
beat Lorenzo Romar's squad.
Yeah, and they led the whole way. They didn't just win. I mean, that was not a fluke. They were not lucky. They were clearly better than Washington. I think they beat Washington 9 times out of 10.
Yeah,
I mean,
and so the only question that I've left about that game is, was it because Yale is really that good? Which is tough for me to say with guys like Justin Sears gone off of last year's team and then Mason not even playing in this game.
right.
Or is Washington that bad?
Maybe a little bit of both.
We'll find out as Yale. Let me pull up the Yale schedule here. Just take a look at what they've got coming up here. They've got actually coming up Lehigh coming up Thursday night, which is a pretty good game. We're going to talk about this Lehigh team in a few minutes here.
Yeah.
At Virginia.
That one's okay. That one again, swinging over your head. But hey, it's all gravy. There's nothing to lose. That game at Pitt, it's not going to be easy, but it's winnable. This is a very good Yale team.
Just because I do like this little tool I could draw here, I got to circle this about Washington after that game, though.
Yes.
322 RPI.
Yes.
Oh,
thank you, Warren Nolan.
Okay. Again, RPI is completely meaningless this early in the season. One loss.
Still fun. Yeah.
Could really throw you off. But Metro Atlantic,
probably
one of the best games so far, especially ones involving under the radar, this Monmouth, South Carolina game the other night, David.
Yeah, and it was kind of crazy. Like I had the split screen, well, lots of screens, but on one of the screens I had Monmouth on one screen and Siena on the other playing GW. And both of them ended within about a minute of each other, and both of them ended badly for the Metro Atlantic team. Monmouth going to South Carolina. This is a team that just missed the NCAA tournament last year. In fact, they were so close, many felt the committee made a mistake leaving them out. I certainly did. And with so much of their team back this year, we are expecting them to be as good or better. But they don't have as many chances this year, not in an exempt tournament. Schedule isn't quite as tough. So the lack of opportunities that hurt them last year will hurt them even more this year. They kind of needed that one. And, my God, to lose the way that they did, they were ahead, and it was a last-second – not so – would you call that it wasn't a tip-in, but it was some sort of – it was in between a shot and a tip-in.
Yeah, a little short jumper, and it hurt.
Yeah. And Let's talk about Siena, because I think both you and I liked Siena more than Monmouth coming into this year. Not looking good at all against George Washington.
Yeah, they did beat Cornell to start the season. Coming up Friday night, again, shooting a little bit over their heads at Kansas,
Yeah,
just slightly over their heads, I think. But
right.
beyond that, they do have a fairly winnable schedule coming up here at St. Bonaventure. A lot of road games, but against teams that are of their
Yeah,
caliber, I guess I'd put it that way.
right. Lots of question marks for GW out of the Atlantic 10, not under the radar. A lot of their better players are back. Their coaches not. They had a spectacular offseason. If you're unaware of it, Google it. It's amazing. Uh,
Yeah, and I actually do. I mean, this GW team again. We've gone off of we've gone onto the radar here with GW, but
yeah,
it's a GW team that I would have probably picked to be potentially in the bubble picture if not for the coach mess.
right.
And maybe the team is going to pull together through that and use that as a rallying point. And this
Yeah,
GW team is a team that we all underrated heading into the season.
maybe so. Does this loss haunt Siena? Was this because I kind of had this one circled a road game against a non-tournament NIT-ish kind of team. If Siena's as good as I think they are, they go there and win that, and they didn't win it. Does this one haunt them, Chad?
Uh, well, first of all, David, if they win Friday night, no.
Oh, well,
But
yeah, yeah,
let's assume they don't win that game.
yeah,
You don't have any room for any room for errors here with games like at St. Bonaventure and at Gulf Coast, at Hofstra, and there's a lot of road games here non-conference.
yeah,
Teams that are good but not great. They're not playing. They do have a game at against Arkansas Pine Bluff, but other than that, there's no real cupcakes on the schedule either. So it's going to
right.
be tough for them to do anything. Also, the Metro Atlantic still uses a 20-game regular season, which I am not a very big fan of
Not
because it's
either.
two less opportunities to play somebody non-conference.
Right, and here we are, two teams probably good enough to be at large teams, but one of the things that works against them is the lack of opportunity. And when you play 20 conference games as opposed to 18 or 16, you take opportunities away.
Let's move on from the Metro Atlantic. Up next, actually, is the MEAC. And we do have two D1 wins here. North
Yeah,
Carolina Central and Bethune-Cookman. NC Central played well against Ohio State, actually, as
they
well.
really did. They were in there for about 30 minutes the other night. Good showing for NC Central. The teams that we liked coming into the season, SC State,
And
not looking good so far.
Howard
And
was the other
Howard.
team.
Yeah,
But this conference historically doesn't do much in the non-conference part of the season anyhow.
right,
Uh, we'll find out more. This is the type of conference that a good season where the regular season champion also wins the automatic bid, they end up on the 15 line. So
right, yeah.
um, moving on from that, the Mid American Conference. This is the exact opposite of the MEAC, I think here.
Yeah.
And the two teams we both liked a lot heading into the season with both Ohio and Akron. And my Ohio Bobcats, who were my pick to win the conference, are 2-0 so far.
Well, I mean, I liked Ohio as well. I
Mhm.
wasn't all that big on Akron, so I'm not wrong. I'm not wrong with how things are going. Not
Let's
wrong.
actually take a look at Ohio's schedule here real quick. And they picked up a very nice win over Sam Houston State team and a win over Southern team. These, even though they're both home games, these are two teams that are projected to win or contend for their
Yeah,
conference.
and I know that unless you're educated and under the radar, you don't really differentiate Sam Houston State from anybody else. That's a good Sam Houston State team, and Ohio clobbered them. I was this Ohio team's for real. They're going to go to Georgia Tech and win. It's to the point. It's not that I think they can win. I'll be surprised if they don't.
Yeah, that is a winnable game against a power team, and that's the type of win that when you look at the resume at the end of the year, even though Georgia Tech is not going
Bad.
to be in the contention for a tournament bid themselves, it's a type of win that you look at on the resume and say, hey, they won at Georgia Tech, maybe
Right.
they won at Iona, and they finished near the top of their conference or in first place in their conference. Very, very, very possible there. Of course, this Akron team, I mean, obviously worth mentioning as well. I do think that they are a quality
Yeah.
team
Just
despite their
just
loss. They
also.
lost to David. We're gonna have to
Yeah,
look
they
the schedule.
lost to. I got it right here.
They
Yeah,
lost.
they lost to the Youngstown. That's who they lost.
Yeah, and that's actually a pretty good game there, that Youngstown State
Yeah.
game. And we didn't mention Youngstown State when we discussed um,
Horizon.
the
Yeah.
Horizon League. Youngstown actually played a great game where they were down big the other night, made a huge comeback, and then fell in overtime.
Right.
And again, I'm blanking on teams here, so I'm going to do. Oh, that was the game at Toledo. Yes.
Yeah, Toledo, another WAC or Mid-American team. So we love this conference. I know, and this won't be the last time we say this, but it feels like a real conference. There's a lot of rivalry, albeit on a slightly smaller scale, but this is a fun league. And sometimes I think that it's so intense that they beat each other up sometimes. No one ever really runs away from the league, Jed.
One team I do also want to mention here is this Eastern Michigan team. This was the third team. This was the team that I liked for the West Division, at least heading into the season.
Yeah.
Tough. Was it an overtime or double overtime loss to Pitt to start the season?
Yeah.
Then was kind of had nothing left for the game against SMU.
Yeah. I mean,
And there's but I do have a problem with the schedule, David. Do you see what my problem is?
well, they're. I mean, if they're playing, you can't do this. You just cannot do this. If you're as good as Eastern Michigan, 4 non-Div 1 teams, you might as well just take a crap on the floor.
1, Rochester. 2, Madonna.
You're playing Madonna. Is that the school or the performer?
That's the performer, I think.
Now, see, Siena would have been a good game. Oh,
Mary Grove College. This is not the way.
no, it's
the
not.
way you do it.
No, and it's frustrating to see under the radar teams do this. And they say, well, we can't get anybody to come play us. Well, schedule somebody else that's doing this then. SFA did this last year. And although it worked out for them, in the end, it's still not good.
Well, yeah, if you do that, you better win your conference tournament. That's
right,
what it is. Missouri Valley Conference, how impressed are you with what Wichita State has done? Now 3-0 with the win tonight over Tulsa.
I'm surprised at how good they look. They look better to me than they did for most of last year. I know we're just 3 games in, but they have been on a rampage early on. Is this a team that, if we can pull them up, I mean, because every year there's teams not just under the radar, but that kind of explode onto the top 25 when the time the exempt tournaments are over and don't look back. I realize they're not in a tournament this year, but is this one of those teams?
Well, we just talked about South Carolina State as being a team that we thought could win the MEAC 85-39.
Yeah.
We talked about Long Beach State as a team that could win the Big West 92-55.
We talk about Tulsa, who couldn't win a D2 conference, 80-53. Okay, maybe that's not impressive.
And, I mean, you look ahead here. I don't, other than that, maybe the Oklahoma game.
They're going to beat Oklahoma. I mean, the way they've been playing.
Of course, that LSU game is the first game of a tournament, I believe. So they do.
Oh, they are in one. There. Okay.
Yeah. So they'll have a couple games in an exempt tournament. But I'm very impressed by this Wichita State team. I did not think that they would be that good without Van Vliet and Baker back this year. And they have been.
And they have been, yes.
All right, let's move on from them. Just quickly, also, Illinois State, another team that we liked heading into the season. Tough loss at Murray State, a game they were leading most of the way.
Yeah.
Fell in the final seconds there at Murray State.
And really good game for both teams. I think Illinois State rebounds from that. They looked pretty good tonight.
Yeah, they did tonight. They picked up the win over IP Fort Wayne, another team that we thought would be contending for their conference title in a 75-57 blowout there.
Right.
It's a team that has a couple name brands at least on their resume with TCU, New Mexico, St. Joe's, and the like.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see that they don't have much room for error with that Murray State loss, and that may be the type of loss that comes back and haunts them at the end of the day.
Right.
Let's see, David. Mountain West up next.
I think, yeah. Yes.
No, the Northeast Conference, one of our other favorite conferences here. We've got 4 D1 wins now out of this league already.
Right. We love this league, especially when it gets into league play. Love the venues, love the rivalries. But they struggle a little bit prior to conference play. Wagner got what we thought was a big win at UConn, but it turns out that that's probably not going to do much for them at all. UMass Lowell.
LIU picked up it's not their win tonight. It was actually a pretty good game. They beat Loyola Maryland tonight in a game that they're playing at the Barclays Center, believe it or not, for some strange reason. I haven't figured out yet.
That is odd. Huh.
But they are actually 2-0 with a non-D1 win as well, at best record in the conference, at least to date.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if we can get any other conferences up here. Warren,
Y-
help us out.
Yeah,
The Ohio Valley Conference. We already talked about that Murray State team with that nice win over Illinois State.
yeah,
Belmont is another team that we liked heading into the season. They lost to Vanderbilt, and it wasn't really that. I guess they kind of made a second half comeback a little bit, but they fell down huge in the first half there.
yeah. And I'm starting to think this Murray. I know they lost at Middle, but I'm starting to think Murray State might be for real this year. For real by meaning that I think they can win the league. I don't think they can get inside the bubble.
I will tell you, Dave, that on paper, at least, I think the most impressive thing that I've seen out of this conference is actually this Tennessee State team. They went out to Santa Clara to play in a round-robin cable car classic,
Yeah.
3-0 out there in that event, all the way out on the West Coast. Not that they beat any great teams, but just the fact that they go out to the West Coast 3 games in 3 days and win all 3 of them there.
Yeah, and when you've played 3 games away from home and you've won all 3 of them, which they have, that's good. That's a big game on Saturday, Middle Tennessee. A little bit of a crosstown rivalry there. They get that one. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
and if they get this game here on December 19th, they'll be in pretty good
yeah,
shape too.
yeah. If they go in the Duke and win, I think you have to start. We might need to start a campaign to get them ranked.
But no, I agree with you. This Middle Tennessee game this weekend could be one of the better games of this weekend in
Yeah.
terms of the at least outside of the exempt tournaments
Right.
going on.
The committee notices that, or they're supposed to, and I think they do. Middle Tennessee might not be a brand name, but they're a team that might only lose 1 or 2 home games. So if Tennessee State goes there and gets that one, that they're going to get credit for that.
Mhm. Dave, the Patriot League. I know you want to talk about this Lehigh team. Even though they lost their game to Xavier, they looked very good in it.
Yeah, 2 teams looking really good on Friday night. Lehigh, who was your pick to win this conference, and I basically concurred, went into Xavier and really had a chance to win. They fell down by 12 early, but came back and missed a shot at the buzzer that would have tied the game and sent it to overtime. This is a Xavier team that was ranked in the top 10 for much of last year, and although they weren't entirely at full strength, they're still really, really good. Just a really impressive showing by Lehigh. The post player whose name escapes me, he's an all conference. He's been all conference 2 years in a row. Had a fantastic game. Um, I, even though they lost, I don't think American also played very well at Maryland in their game on Friday. But even though they lost, I think I was more impressed with Lehigh than even some of the teams that have won.
Yeah. Team that I've not been impressed so far with, I also thought could be the running here was Holy Cross. They got crushed by
Oh,
South Carolina and then crushed by Syracuse. And something I forgot to mention actually about this Holy Cross team, David, uh, head coach there at Holy Cross, whose name just escaped me for half a second here, Bill Carmody.
yeah,
Uh,
Bill from Northwestern.
yes, from Northwestern and formerly of Princeton roots. He has a new assistant head coach on his bench this year. Joe Scott, your good friend from Denver.
Well, that explains the issues that Holy Cross is having.
Yeah, that might be exactly what their issues are. But let's move on from the Patriot League. I believe we're up to the Southern Conference next, which features those
Yeah.
Chattanooga Mocs. And while were not very competitive against North Carolina, they got a huge win against Tennessee. We discussed this a couple nights ago as well.
Yeah, and that's when they really needed Tennessee, most likely not a tournament team, maybe not an NIT team. So if you're Chattanooga and you're as good as we think they are, which is a tournament caliber team, you go on the road and you win that. And they did. And they won it the way a tournament team should win it, rather handily. I know North Carolina blew their doors off, but I am a little surprised they weren't a little more competitive than what they were.
Yeah.
I didn't think they'd win, but I thought they might be able to keep it within 20.
They've got I mean, they have very few chances left. They do have a trip to Vanderbilt coming up a little later on this season. I don't know that anybody else on this list here of non-conference games is really going to give them much credit. So they probably need to come close to running the table the rest of the season here.
Yeah, they're not in any sort of tournament or anything?
They're in a 4-team event. That Central Arkansas game is the semifinal. They're probably going to play Army in the title game.
Okay.
It's not going to give them a big name scalp to go up against.
Yeah. So again, but yeah, and They'll have to, but they should be able to. With the exception of Tennessee or East Tennessee State, they're better than all these teams.
Yes, but it's good to see that they did put in Hawassee and Tennessee Wesleyan, two of our favorite teams that no one knows anything about.
Yeah, and it's like, why aren't they playing Eastern Michigan? Really?
I think we're going to be talking about games like that all season, David.
Yeah,
And
we will.
it's constantly be a thing we talk about every year, but it's
Yeah.
true. You
Don't do this. I mean,
not if you think you have a team that could potentially contend for an at-large bid.
right, which they certainly can.
Uh, the Southland Conference, we talked about the Sam Houston State team a little bit earlier. Stephen F. Austin did pick up a win in the tip-off marathon as well against Longwood, but barely pulled out that game, and a
Yeah,
game they should have
barely
rolled in.
not at home, and Longwood is not good. SFA isn't just rebuilding; they're starting. They're digging the foundation over again. I think.
A couple other teams to mention here. Nicholls State picked up a win at Boston College. No, was that McNeese State?
No,
No, it was Nicholls State. Yes,
yeah,
Nicholls State went to Boston College and picked up a win before
they
the
got
loss
blown out by UCF.
UCF.
Boston College, if they were in this conference, they would not win it.
Yeah, I picked Nicholls State to finish 10th in this conference, so that was not a good showing by BC. McNeese State, who I picked second in this conference, lost to a non-D1 opponent.
Brother.
And Incarnate Word, who played a great game against Texas, turned around and due to was playing St. Edward's last night, another non-D1 team. St. Edward's hit a 3 at the buzzer to tie the game. A review showed it was a tenth of a second too late, and so Incarnate Word escaped with the win after almost beating Texas. So I don't know what that means.
Well, it's their last transitional year, so.
Right. Them and Abilene Christian by next year will be eligible. This year, they would need a waiver.
Yeah.
Sun Belt Conference. This is a conference where we mentioned this Texas Arlington team earlier with that tough loss tonight against Florida Gulf Coast. Coastal Carolina in their first year in this conference. Anything else that's really stuck out to you so far in this league, David?
No, I keep forgetting the Chanticleers are here now. Not really. I mean, Arlington was really the only team I kind of had my eye on, but I still like them to win the league despite being off to just a 1-2 start.
One of our favorite conferences, the SWAC, and we actually have 3 D1 wins already here out of the SWAC, including a road win by Prairie View at New Mexico. At Fresno State the other night.
Yeah. Real good. I mean, again, like they're already up to 3 total wins. Texas Southern was 2 of them. So, this conference is perpetually on the 16 line, normally more often than not in the first 4, but Texas Southern can probably get inside of it.
Inside the first 4, yeah. The Summit League, second to last conference we're going to be discussing tonight. Another league that hasn't done anything.
South Dakota.
Not much has happened because been of note out of this conference so far. That Fort Wayne team, like we mentioned earlier, got blown out tonight.
Little surprised by that. IPFW, that one was kind of shocking. North Dakota State, they were one of the teams I liked in this league as well. But off to a 1-0 start.
After a 1-0 start, they're probably 2-0. Yeah, they did beat Minnesota Morris also.
Yeah.
They don't really have much of a test until November 29th, where they are going to lose badly. But
You're right.
One last conference to discuss, and this was one of our favorite conferences last season. If we can get it back up here, maybe not.
We'll discuss
not
it.
The SWAC. We're going to discuss the SWAC again, apparently.
Yeah.
Here it comes. The standings in the WAC, and we've got the Grand Canyon Antelopes losing at Duke, following that up with a loss at Penn State, a Penn State team that already lost to Albany. So I was kind of surprised.
I was legitimately surprised that they didn't get that one. Especially, I know Duke opened it up in the end, but Grand Canyon was right in there for a half.
We have one D1 win in the entire conference so far. That was UMKC's victory there.
Seattle losing kind of bad at Notre Dame tonight. I still like well, I still think it's going to come down to Grand Canyon and New Mexico State, but um, I don't know. Penn State, a brand name, or did that result surprise you that Grand Canyon didn't get that one?
Maybe I liked Penn State a little bit heading into the season. I totally gave up on them after the Albany game, but they kind
Yeah,
of surprised me a bit. I mean, it would have been a nice win for Grand Canyon, still being against a Big Ten team, but a
right.
little disappointed that they weren't able to pull that out.
Hmm.
Absolutely, they've got Albany coming up next at a four-team event over at Mohegan Sun before they head back west. But let me take this down here, and David, pull us both back up on the screen again.
Okay.
Um,
God,
and
I look great in high def. I look so good. It's
and you
amazing.
have a name again, David. We've
Yes, I know, David. I'm good.
David Griggs. We want to take a look at a couple other games that are coming up this week that we haven't mentioned. David, one game that I'm very looking forward to coming up Thursday evening: Chicago State at Wisconsin.
I'm not looking forward to that.
uh,
Um,
actually, a pretty good game here. Lehigh at Yale. Two teams.
that's a good one. Yeah.
Um, we've got coming up on Friday. We've got Monmouth is taking a trip to Syracuse.
Oof.
And the New Mexico State New Mexico rivalry is on Thursday, is on Friday night as well.
Yeah, and again, that's sort of an aggregate. They do a home and home, although they don't do it on back-to-back nights anymore. It's still fun.
Another game I'm looking forward to coming up on Saturday, David. Western Kentucky is at Belmont. A couple teams that we just discussed this
Yeah,
evening.
Western Kentucky's sweating a little bit here against what I thought would be a weak Jack State team, but Western Kentucky kind of can't seem to run away from them.
And we didn't mention this again, but Jacksonville State did pick up a win at Tulsa already this year. So maybe this Jacksonville State team is a team.
Tulsa's crap.
Okay, never mind. So it was a meaningless win. Um, but David, we do when we do our under the radar shows, we always like to end with our top 10 lists. You and I both have our own lists here. We're going to kind of compare notes as to who we agree on and who we disagree on. And I'll start it off at the top. I've got Wichita State number one.
As
Uh,
do I.
and I think that's only for now because they could be no longer under the radar by next week.
Right, yeah.
Uh, Chattanooga, I have number two. Despite the loss, I think that's how good this team is.
Yeah. Let's see. I think I had them at two. Like, I can't seem to get. Here we go. Yeah, I had them up there at number two. So we agree on the. I think we had 8 of the same top 10,
Okay.
but
Well, my number three team, they are 2-0. They belong in the top 25. Hashtag rank UNH. I
yes,
have our team of the people. I have Go Dancing or Die, the New Hampshire Wildcats, number
yeah,
three overall on the strength of that win at Temple and the upcoming win this Sunday night they're going to get at West Virginia.
yeah, and I mean, and again, it's country western night. I think
Oh,
tonight.
that's tomorrow night.
Yeah,
Thursday night, they're hosting Abilene Christian's Country Western Night. David, not many people know this, but that covers both types of music, both country and western.
yes, it is, and you know, if New Hampshire is known for anything, it's known for its primaries and country western music, and the Wildcats. So I have Wilmington all the way up here, and I realize that they haven't gotten the body of work or the merit yet that the team of the people has, but I still really like this team at number 3. And at 4, I have Middle.
Okay.
Tennessee.
I had Wilmington 4 and Middle 5, so we're right there with both those teams. I do
Yeah.
agree with you on those. I have number 6. I had Valpo.
Yeah, I had Murray State all the way up at number 5 simply because I thought the win against what I think is a very good Illinois State team is worth noting. I don't punish them too much for not getting the win at Middle. I had Yale at 6.
All right. I have Yale 7, actually. I do not even have Murray State in my top 10. I did punish them
Yeah.
for the Middle Tennessee loss.
Okay, I noticed another team you didn't have. You don't have Ohio in yours.
I do have their number 8 on my list.
Oh, okay. They're number 8 on mine too. And then I have Illinois State. And then despite not having a win yet, I really liked this Lehigh team.
Yeah.
Valpo, I didn't even vote for. When you have to split out Div 2 teams.
I had Siena in there. I came in number 10. I know they have a loss already, but I'm still holding out for this Rice team. This is my sleeper team of the season this year.
They're definitely a sleeper.
I did give an honorable mention as well, David, to that Tennessee State team that we discussed for that 3-0 trip out to Santa Clara as well.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else you had on your list that we missed?
No, I think no. We got everybody on mine.
All right.
Um,
Well, then, on that note, David, do you have any other final thoughts for the end of our first
well,
episode here of Under the
just to
Radar?
reemphasize, it's rigged. It's rigged. The top 25 against New Hampshire. Nobody from New Hampshire gets to vote. Hashtag rank UNH.
Can we
Start
get that
tweeting.
graphic back up again?
Yeah, the hashtag?
We paid $50,000
Yeah,
for it.
we paid $50,000 for this. Let's see if we can
Uh,
get.
we had
Again,
to have
this
a
is
6-month focus group study to
yeah,
get
yeah.
this
I mean,
developed.
this is, and we looked at all different kinds of models here. Before we decided on this one.
Okay, hashtag rank UNH. Tweet it out, everybody. Tweet it at the AP voters. Tell them to rank the Wildcats. They belong in the top 25. They absolutely do. And we expect on Monday, uh, regardless of what happens in that West Virginia game, they deserve to be ranked.
Right.
Uh, but on that note, for David Griggs, I'm Chad Sherwood. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back again Monday night for a Hoops HD report and sometime midweek next week for our next Under the Radar. We'll talk to you again real soon.
Are we